All right, boys and girls, let's talk about a new artist, and his name is Matisse. He is an artist that lived almost 100 years ago, and he was really great at creating something called a still life. A still life is an arrangement of objects that are still. That means they're not moving, they're just flat on a table, and an artist is looking at what they see in that still life and painting the details they see. So this is a still life of a woman, and she is sitting next to this table with the vase of flowers and the fruit. Here is another still life of a room, and inside of this room there is a table with a flower vase and some fruit on the table. There's a window here that looks to the outside. Here's another still life of a room with a table and a fishbowl and lots of plants. So what Matisse was really great at was not just painting still lifes, but actually adding lots of patterns to his still life to make it look what we call abstract. It means it almost looks like the colors and lines and shapes that we see look like a real room with real objects, but there's lots of different lines and shapes and colors that make this look not so real. So it's actually abstract. So we're going to try and create our own version of a still life today in a room, kind of like the style of Matisse. So here's what we're going to create today. Here's my still life with my room and my table and my objects on top of my table. So what we're going to start with is our white piece of paper. And I'm going to show you today how to make some simple lines that make your space look like it is a room with two walls and a floor. So what I'm going to start with is my blank piece of paper, and I'm going to take a colored oil pastel. It doesn't matter what color you use, but I think I'm just going to use black for this. I'm going to put a dot in the middle of my paper, and from that dot I'm going to make a line that goes straight up, and then a line that goes at an angle to the corner here, this right corner, and then a line that goes to the left corner right here. So now I have kind of like the corner of a room, two walls and a floor. So now I'm going to add some patterns with my oil pastels, kind of like Matisse's room, how he had patterns on the walls in his pictures. So I'm going to think of lines or shapes that I can repeat with my colored oil pastels and fill up the walls with a pattern. So I can just repeat a line. So maybe I'm going to repeat this zigzag line over and over. I can get really fancy and do two colored, maybe a double zigzag in between. So it's just a line color pattern, red, purple, zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. Okay, so when I finish this wall, I will think of a new pattern for this wall. So maybe I'll do circles. I'll just repeat circles all over. So I'm repeating the pattern because it's circle, 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 circle. Okay, and now for the floor, I'll think of a new pattern. So I think I'm going to do a checkered board line. So straight line, straight, straight, straight. And then I'm going to flip it so that it's up and down straight, so it kind of looks like a checkerboard floor. All right, now when I finish with my patterns on my wall and my floor, I'm going to take my tray with my watercolor paint, and I'm going to do something called wax resist. So we have practiced this before, dipping in our color and then painting over our oily oil pastel. So remember, water and oil pastel don't mix. They like to go in their own spaces, water and oil. So I can just paint right over my pattern and I can still see it in the end. So I'll think of some colors that I can paint over my walls and my floor. So I'm using a red color because red is hot and green is a cold color, so they really stand out against each other. Okay, now I will paint this wall over here. I think I'm going to do yellow. So I need to keep dipping in my paint and then dipping in my water, then dipping in my paint again. Covering the whole wall, no white spaces from top to bottom. Okay, and then I'll think of one color for the floor. I think I'll do green for the floor. Okay, once I finish the painting step here, everything's all covered up with the white spaces. Now I'm going to put this aside so that it can dry a little bit because I'm going to work on some cutting now. Now in my still life, I need to cut out a couple of objects. First, I need to cut out a table. Then I'm going to try and cut out this fishbowl, and then some other objects on the table that I can choose, like plants, flowers, even fruit like we saw. So you're going to take the paper scraps at your table, and I want you to start with the brown table. So I'm going to take my marker, and I'm just going to draw a table. So I want my table to kind of look like it's sitting in this room, so I'm going to start with what we call a trapezoid. This will be the top of the table. And then I'm going to, on the side here, make some legs for the table, some long rectangles, and then 2 short rectangles. So these will be the pieces that will build the table. So I'm going to put this aside now. Now I'm going to think of what else I want to be in my room. That fishbowl. So to draw that fishbowl, I'm going to start with a circle. And this is a form called a cylinder. I have 2 straight lines on the side and 1 curved bottom here. Then I have a shape that looks like a big bowl. Inside of here, I can put some little fish with my oil pastels. I can just color those in. And then what I can also do is I can use my water paint to paint some blue right over the fish. Same thing like how I did with my room, wax resist, just paint right over the fish. Okay, now I'll put this aside, cut that out, and then I'll think of a couple more things. I think I'm going to draw some plants, so some leaves, shapes that look like this. And I think I'm going to draw some flowers and cut those out. And I think I'll make some fruit. So maybe I'll take some red and some orange and make some circles for some oranges and some apples. Okay, once I have all my pieces drawn out, I'm going to start to cut them out. And then I'll take my room from before, and it should be pretty dry by now after I've cut out all my shapes. Now I'm going to start to glue my shapes down. So I think I will start with the table. I'm going to take that table and put it right here near the floor, near the corner of the room, and glue it down. Then I'll glue down the legs of my table, 1, 2, and the back legs of the table, 1, 2. All right, now on top of the table, I'm going to glue my fishbowl right on top here. I'm going to glue down my plants and flowers. Some plants on the table. Some flowers. I'm overlapping my shapes so they can all fit on the table. And then maybe I'll do my fruit, apples, a lemon, an orange, another apple. So I'm just going to glue all these shapes down with my glue. Maybe I could even think of some other shapes I could put on the table, like maybe a flower vase. I can try to do that like Matisse did. So you think of what other objects you want to be in your still life on your table by cutting out with your scissors and glue. Okay, and then this is finished. I'm just going to put my name on the back and put it on the drying rack.